Saving America one entrepreneur at a time, it's the Biz Rap Podcast with your host, Michael Monaghan. The show that celebrates small business and entrepreneurs, it's Biz Rap Radio with your host, small businessman, educator, and author, Michael Monaghan. And welcome to another edition of Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Monaghan, and thank you so much for joining me today. If you're not familiar with Biz Rap Radio, we are the show all about entrepreneurs and small business. Yes, that's right. We are here to help you, the engines of our economy. Did you know that most people in the United States actually work for a small business? Did you also know that as we've pulled out of the recession, most new businesses or most new jobs were created by small business? Now, I know this goes against what a lot of you hear in the newspaper. I live here in Long Beach, California. I get the Los Angeles Times. I open up the business section, and what do I see in the business section of the Los Angeles Times? I see Microsoft. I see General Motors. I see Verizon. I see AT&T. I don't see one article about small business. It's all about these big corporations and what happens when the economy does suffer. What does the government do with your and my tax dollars? Does it give it out to the small businesses in this country? No, it bails out the fat cats on Wall Street, bails out General Motors. It plies off billions of dollars for crony capitalism. And meanwhile, the people who are really creating the jobs, employing most of the people, are being overregulated, overtaxed. The banks don't want to give them any money unless you want to, take out the old credit card, and yeah, they'll give you a $50,000 limit on your credit card and charge you 24% interest on it. So I'm here trying to help you, the small business people of America. I want you to make more money. Yeah, profit, it's not a dirty word, Here's the deal. You make a profit. You take care of yourself. You take care of your family. You take care of your employees, and you take care of your community. That's the way it's worked in the United States since this country was founded, and that's the way it should be right now. No, you don't make a huge profit and send all the money to Washington so they can take care of everybody else. You need to be actively involved in your community, and that's what I like about small business people. I talk to a lot of small business people. I've traveled the country talking to small business people. They are very involved in their community. Now, when Coca-Cola sponsors the local 10K run in your city, I can tell you Coca-Cola is doing it for advertising purposes. But when a local business, the muffler shop, the local franchisee of McDonald's, when these people sponsor sports and activities in the local community, it's because they care about the community that they live in. So if you're a small business person, great, keep up the good work. If you're thinking about going into business, do so. Take a chance, take that risk. And for those of you who are a little risk averse, my biggest advice is if you're working for a big corporation or the government, get yourself a small business on the side. 50 years ago, it might have been difficult to run a small business on the side. Today, it's not, with the internet, with eBay and all of these other websites, Etsy and places like that, where you can market your services. I know I market my services as a consultant on 3 or 4 different websites on the internet. You can post ads on Craigslist. So even if you are working for somebody else, have a backup plan. Start your own little business. You don't have to put tons of hours into it, but when you wake up Saturday morning, spend 4 or 5 hours creating yourself a business and an extra source of income. Okay, with that, I've done enough talking. Let's get to the meat of the show. I am so pleased today. I have an absolutely fabulous guest who's joining me, and his name is very similar to mine, although he's far more successful than I am or probably will ever be. It is Dan Monaghan. Dan, how are you doing?
Doing great, Mike. How are you?
Okay, I'm doing just fine. Now, you are an entrepreneur, and you started in entrepreneurship at the age of 19. And according to the information I've got, you were a franchisee with Dickie D, I guess an ice cream operation. You used the profits from that to put yourself through university. Later, you published a national best-selling book, Why Not Me? What a story. That's great. And then at the age of 27, you founded the WSI organization. What a history. You're just an amazing person. What is the WSI organization? What do you do?
Well, what we do is we're just celebrating our 20th year anniversary. So we've been around for a long time. And what we do has changed in some ways a lot over the years. It started back in 1995 where we were just building websites. We knew it's something that most businesses didn't have and all businesses would eventually need. So we built websites. Today, we provide all of the services and consulting around digital marketing. So yes, we still build the website, but we drive the traffic to the website. We help turn that traffic into customers so that our clients, which are generally small and medium-sized businesses, so that they can increase their number of leads, increase their revenues, increase their market share. And so that's what we do. We're the world's largest network of digital marketing agencies.
Wow, that is very, very impressive. So you then are an expert in this, obviously in this whole area and field of online, or you call it digital marketing. Maybe that's a new term for it. It's interesting how we use these different terms. I was looking at the financial statements for Nike, the big sports manufacturer. And typically, historically, on financial statements, you would have advertising expense. And Nike has changed the terminology. Maybe other big corporations have as well. But they now call it demand creation expense.
Right.
So isn't that a creative way of saying advertising?
Yeah, it is. I mean, ultimately, for the kinds of businesses we serve, it's not so much about branding, although that's a great side benefit of what we do. Most businesses, they want to generate leads and they want to generate sales. They can't afford to spend hundreds of millions of dollars and to build brand equity that they're going to harvest in the many years ahead. They want to spend $1 today and generate $10 in revenue tomorrow. And so that's, I think, what separates us from a lot of those behemoths in the kind of traditional branding or advertising industry. The internet really is like it's leveled the playing field now, and it's like David and Goliath, and we serve every day tens of thousands of Davids and help them compete against the Nikes, the Goliaths that have budgets that are much larger than them.
How do you do that? I mean, I own a small business, a small travel agency, which is it's just kind of I wouldn't say it's a hobby per se, but I have a couple of partners in it. I'm not overly active in the business, but travel business is really tough. It's a challenge for the travel business to compete with the Travelocities and the Expedias and the Hotels.com. Can a small business still how does a small business effectively compete on the internet today? Can you give us some ideas or thoughts?
Well, first of all, you need to know your niche. You need to know who you're going after. And it's not that different than fishing in the sense that, you need to know what's your objective. What kind of fish am I going to catch? What kind of lakes am I going to fish on? What kinds of bait am I going to use? So, when we sit down with a client, the first thing we want to know is, what are your objectives? Okay, is it generating leads? Is it generating Facebook likes? Which, I still laugh when I hear that, because what's a like going to do for you? You want a customer, you want a lead. But what is it? What is their objective? Is it to generate sales? And then we have to define a strategy around what do we know about these fish we're going after? What do we know about these customers we're going after? And based on who we're going after and what we know about them, we then craft a strategy. Far too often you'll hear clients say, well, I need some SEO, or I need some, Google AdWords, or I need to buy some Google stuff. And the really they're asking the wrong questions or asking for the wrong thing. We need to begin kind of at a top level with the strategy and say, what are we trying to accomplish? Who are we going after? And then once we know that, we have a broad array of tools, which we can talk about if you like, but a broad array of tools in terms of how we'll actually reach those people and generate a lead.
So what you're telling me here is there's a little more thought involved than just, hey, we got a website, we got a business, now let's go out and let's get one of those Google accounts and start pouring $5 or $10,000 a month into Google ads and just see what happens. You really need to define who the customer is and why that customer would be attracted to you, which customers you're going to go after. You need to start stratifying the market a little bit, if you will, so you really understand the customer and which customer that you're going to try and get. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Google can be a very powerful way to gain market share. It can also be a disastrous way to blow your entire budget and not generate a lot of results. Google's a great partner of ours, but Google does what they do really well, and they don't do what Facebook does very well. They don't do what LinkedIn does very well. And so we need to understand what we're trying to accomplish. So let me give you a quick example.
Okay, Dan, let me cut you off because we got to go to commercial break. This is really interesting stuff, and I love it. I know the listeners are getting so much value out of this, but we have to break for commercials. Somebody's got to pay the bills. It's Mike Monaghan, BizRap Radio. I'm on with entrepreneur Dan Monaghan, and we are going to be back with more about internet marketing and other ways to make your business successful and make some profits right after these messages. And welcome back to BizRap Radio. It's your host, Michael Monaghan, and thanks for sticking with us. If you just joined us, we are talking to Dan Monaghan. Dan is the co-founder of WSI, which is basically an organization that has been helping companies with, as he says, digital marketing, a lot of that on the internet, for, almost over the last 20 years. And Dan's been talking about kind of the differences and the social media that you can use, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and how all of that works. And so, Dan, I appreciate you sticking with us for another segment. Tell us about this. What should we know about social media if we are running a small business?
So, as I was saying earlier, the challenge is so many people start bottom up. They'll say, I need some SEO, or I need some PPC or Google advertising. And they are not really starting with a broader strategy. And there's that expression, if you're a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. If you go to an SEO company, they're thinking SEO is the solution to everything. So I'll give you an example. Where Google is very strong, and Bing, for example, which has a big market share as well. Where Google is strong is people are searching for things. We can put your ad up right on that page when they're searching for it. So if you're searching for, a plumber, and we can put a plumber's ad right on that page when they search for it. But sometimes, and that gets very expensive, by the way, but it can be very effective in terms of lead generation. But sometimes we actually don't know what someone's searching for. So, for example, in Facebook, people don't search for things. They're just reading, they're reading the Facebook page. But what we know in Facebook that we don't know in Google is that we know who these people are. We know that it's a woman with children who's age 35, who went to this school, who enjoys cooking. And there's a huge amount of things we know about people. So on Facebook, we have the ability to place an ad precisely in front of that audience. And because people don't spend as much money in advertising on Facebook as they do on Google, Facebook is still reasonably cheap. And the same holds true for LinkedIn. There's some very specific things we can do with LinkedIn. We know what people do on LinkedIn. If you're a business that's targeting other businesses, we know that this person is a vice president of marketing of this size company in this region, in this sector, pharmaceuticals, for example, so we can target that person with advertising. We don't know what people do when they search for Google. We don't necessarily know what their job title is in Facebook, but if we know their job title, then LinkedIn may be a very powerful advertising tool. And some of our clients get their best results through LinkedIn, much better than they get from some of the others.
Well,
and the same is the case.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because there's a guy down the hall from me in where my office is in downtown Long Beach, and the guy down the hall is involved. He builds websites, but also does a lot of creative projects like brochures and annual reports and things like that. Very good with the graphics. I mean, really high quality, great graphics. And I was talking to him, and he was telling me that he's on LinkedIn every day, and he's always trying to connect with people. But about once every 2 months, he just sends out almost like a flyer to everybody he's connected with on LinkedIn. And he is always surprised at the number of people who respond and who have a project they're working on or they're thinking about working on. And he says that is his entire method for generating business. And he generates enough business doing that to keep his small firm, it's him and he's got like 2 people working for him, to keep them busy. It's unbelievable. So yeah, and a lot of people who I'm a member of LinkedIn. I don't know that I've ever, and I've got a pretty big following or connections because of all of my various things. I'm a consultant. I'm a university professor. I do a radio show, and yet I really have never been contacting the people I'm connected with to make any money off of them. So I'm not doing this right.
Well, it's when people think about things like Facebook and LinkedIn, they all often think about, or even Twitter, they think about it like being involved in social media. It's, connecting, it's chatting with my connections. And business people often say, well, how do I make money on that? Like, how do I generate leads through Facebook? And sometimes, people will waste a lot of time sending out tweets and, Facebook postings and this kind of thing. I sometimes think about it, it's like you're talking to yourself in a closet. I mean, you can be sending out lots of tweets, but what's really being accomplished? But what a lot of people don't realize is that you can actually do advertising on Facebook, advertising on LinkedIn. And the example you gave, Mike, is a good one in the sense that you can also communicate with the networks that you've built by sending out an email, or, in LinkedIn they call that an in-mail. But you can communicate with the groups you've built. But the point that most people are not aware of is that you can advertise to people you're not even connected to. And that is a very powerful, overlooked area for many people as it relates to Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
That's just wonderful advice. It really. Now look at it. Somebody might be listening to this and saying, "Well, this sounds all very well, but I really need help doing some of this stuff. I'm just not technologically savvy enough. I don't understand it well enough." If somebody needs assistance, can your organization help them?
Yeah, that's what we do. I mean, we begin with an assessment. We do a competitive analysis and what you're doing or not doing, what your competition is doing or not doing. But one of the things we actually encourage, we find our best customers are our most knowledgeable customers, our most educated customers. As I said earlier, a lot of times people don't even know the question to ask, much less the answer. So we've actually written a book which has become one of the best-selling books on digital marketing on Amazon. And actually, I'll give your listeners a free copy of that if they'd like to download the Kindle version. If you go to wsiworld.com/Kindle, they can download a free copy of that book. And it's one of the highest-rated digital marketing books on Amazon. And there's 12 chapters in there that outline, some general information about all of these areas of digital marketing. And then whether you're working with us or working with another company, you're going to be a much more educated person in relation to digital. So at least you're asking the right questions.
Okay, give out that web address again, because I know there's people who are probably listening and they were running around searching for a pen while you were giving it out.
Sure.
So give them a chance.
So,
Okay, grab
so
your pens,
our
everybody,
company,
because here it comes again. You can get a free copy of Dan's book on digital marketing, Kindle version. And if it's a Kindle version, does that mean you have to have a Kindle device to read it?
I think so, but you can actually download a free Kindle app, on your phone, or so I think it's pretty available. But if not, you can get the book on Amazon as well.
Okay, great. So give out that web address once again.
Yeah. So it's wsiworld.com/Kindle. So our company is wsiworld.com/Kindle. And that'll get you the most current version of the book on Kindle.
Well, that's great. wsiworld.com/Kindle. I'm going to check that out myself, because clearly I need to bring myself up to speed on more of this digital marketing stuff and do a better job of it. Well, that's great. And then if somebody reads the book and thinks, okay, now I do need some help, is it the same website for them to go and find out what resources you have available that they might, and how they might get involved with you? Or your organization?
So, our network we have about 1,000 consultants around the world that basically serve small and medium-sized businesses. So we have global reach, but our focus is local. So chances are, wherever your listeners are, we probably have somebody in that local market there that can serve them and kind of go through this process of helping them put together a strategy to win.
Okay, got it. So what you do is you're kind of a resource. You can a matchmaker, if you will. You can put somebody who needs a service. If I need somebody, in Long Beach, California, you could potentially match me up with somebody who's local that I could meet with and talk to, who could help me with my digital marketing needs.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if you've got a specific need, let's say in the pharmaceutical or the finance field or retail or e-commerce, we might connect you with someone who knows a whole lot about that. It might not be right in your backyard. They might be, a few hours away, but they've got real specific expertise in your space. So we'll connect you with the best person.
Okay, great. So that's great. We got to go to commercial break. It's BizRap Radio. Your host, Michael Monaghan. I am talking to Dan Monaghan, co-founder of WSI, Digital Marketing Experts, and we will be back right after these messages. And welcome back to BizRap Radio. It's your host, Michael Monaghan, and thanks for sticking with us. If you just joined the show, I'm speaking with Dan Monaghan, and you can go to his website, which is wsiworld.com/Kindle. And you can actually download his book for free. So, Dan, that's a great offer. I appreciate that, and thanks for sticking with me for another segment.
No problem.
Now, you've been involved in this internet stuff, gosh, since I'm going to say since it began, but since it really started to become commercialized, which was way back in the 90s. But that's a long time ago, and things have changed so much. Give us a little bit of the history and things you've found and you discovered and experiences you had as this whole internet thing was evolving.
Yeah. Well, it's a great question, because when we started the company back in 1995, the Google guys were still in university. So this was kind of BG, before Google, actually. So but it's interesting. Back then, people weren't even on the internet, really. So it was hard for us to market ourselves on the internet. We used to buy round the world tickets with British Airways, and which allowed you to keep flying as long as you kept going east. You could stop as many times as you wanted, and we would give seminars at hotels, to business groups around the world. And I remember how difficult it was to explain this thing called the internet and how it was going to take off. And so what I would sometimes ask is, I ask the room, how many people in the room had a fax number on your business card 5 years ago? And there'd be very few hands would go up. And then I'd say, how many of you have a fax number on your business card today? And then, of course, most of the room would raise their hand back in 95. Then I said, in the next 5 years, everyone is going to have an email address on their business card. and everyone would look at me kind of like deer in the headlights. They just had no concept for what we were talking about. So it was kind of interesting that it wasn't until about 1999 or 2000 where there was enough people on the internet that we could actually begin marketing ourselves. Of course, today, the audience on the internet is vast. Hundreds of millions and billions of people. So it's an incredible audience, whether you're growing a business locally or internationally. The audience is all there. So it's certainly no need for global travel anymore. But it's helped us. We're in 87 countries now around the world. So those early years of planting the seeds were certainly helpful.
So does that mean in your organization you are connected with consultants in all of these various different languages and countries that can help people in their particular country?
That's right. So it's many different languages. I mean, the book Digital Minds that I gave all of your audience earlier, that's right now in 4 different languages. But different languages, different character sets, around the world. So it's interesting as you begin having a global perspective. There's many things that are different internationally, but many things are very much the same. It's all about having a great website, driving traffic to that website, and converting that traffic into customers or leads or sales or whatever your objective is.
Now, with this global reach that you have, we've seen what's happened here in the United States with the internet. With the internet presence, I know if you ask my daughter, I said, when was the last time you were in a shopping mall? She'd tell you it's probably about 5 years ago. She buys everything she buys on the internet. Here in the U.S., many of our shopping malls are becoming ghost towns. I was reading an article, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, that there was something like 800 what they would consider to be major shopping malls in the United States that they will expect will be closing in the next 5 years. Is that similar trend happening around the world? Are we seeing because the last time I traveled internationally, I was in Asia for about a month last year, and it seemed every shopping center I went to was absolutely packed to the brim, wall-to-wall people.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think when it comes to major trends, quite often we have a tendency to overestimate what's going to happen in the short term, but we often underestimate what's going to happen in the longer term. And this shift towards online is truly disruptive. And you only have to look to companies like Uber to see how one idea and one company can totally turn an entire industry on its head, or the impact that Airbnb will have on the entire hotel industry. Industry by industry, things will be disrupted over time, and it's something that people need to think about. How will my business capitalize? Not just how will I survive and not be crushed by this change, but how can I capitalize on this change? These are very exciting times for entrepreneurs. There's never been a better time to be a David today than a Goliath, but you still need to be smart about it and be thinking about what's your plan for the future for your company.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying there. You were talking before about how when you first started out, you asked people if they had a fax number on their business card. And, of course, most people did. I noticed today you get a business card. Not only is there no fax number on the business card, but many people don't even bother putting a mailing address on their business card, because what's the point? I'm not going to send anybody a letter anymore. It's all going to go electronically over the internet. Right.
Well, and some people would say that mailing addresses in the future will be replaced with GPS coordinates. The ability to not just say, here's the building I'm sending this to, but here's the precise location of the mailbox. And so there's a lot of ways that technology is changing the way things happen. In fact, if you look at Amazon's strategy for delivery, they're not planning on sending it in your local FedEx or UPS truck. They want to now send packages to your home through drones. And as far-fetched as that may sound, the reality is it's not that far off. They're already delivering in Africa and many parts of the world medicines by drones. The concept of drone delivery is very feasible and very logical. So almost every industry, if we're really following what's happening, we're seeing signs of change and disruption. And what does that mean for you and your business? It can mean some exciting things, or if we stay the same, it can be a problem.
So for the entrepreneur, the small business person, you're out there, you really need to be looking at the changing trends and thinking not in terms of, oh my God, this could hurt my business, but my God, how can I take advantage of these changing trends to build new revenues for my business?
Yeah, and think about it. You know, what Darwin said many years ago is that the advantage does not go to the species that is the strongest or the biggest. It goes to the species that is most able to change, most agile. And so the question is, how much in your business do you change? How open are you to changing based on what the competition's doing, based on how technology changes, based on trends? And it's how quickly we can change that is a huge indicator of our potential success.
Well, that's great advice. This is wonderful stuff. Again, I'm speaking with Dan Monaghan. He's the co-founder of WSI. They are a digital marketing organization. You can get his book for free, wsiworld.com/Kindle. Go in there and download his free book and learn a little bit about this digital marketing if you're not an expert at it. And if you do need to hook up with somebody who can help you with your digital marketing needs, and you got to be using digital marketing. It doesn't matter how small your business is, you've got to be using digital marketing today. You can go to Dan's website, wsiworld.com, and they can hook you up with an expert who can help you and assist you with your digital marketing if you don't think you're up to the challenge of doing everything yourself. And, of course, I'm a huge believer in bringing on experts who know more than you do to help you in your business, because as a small business person, you simply can't be an expert at everything. There's too much. You know, you're running $1 billion corporation. You can have hundreds of experts running around. Small business, you simply can't afford that. So you need good relationships with experts that can help you in the various areas of your business. And I think part of a good small business strategy is building that team of experts that you can call in who will help you and make them part of your team, not just somebody you hire once, but make them an ongoing part of your team, even if you only use them a few hours a week or a few hours a month, so that they know who you are and what you're trying to do, and they can help you build your organization. Dan, we've got to go to commercial break again. I've got one segment left. Can you stick with us for one more segment?
Sure, be happy to.
Okay, fantastic. It's BizRap Radio, your host, Michael Monaghan, and we will be back with Dan Monaghan right after these messages. And welcome back to BizRap Radio. It's your host, Michael Monaghan, and thank you so much for sticking with us. And if you just joined the show, we, of course, BizRap Radio are the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. We're here to help you, small business people. So I have on the line with me Dan Monaghan. He's the co-founder of WSI. He's an author, expert on digital marketing. He was literally one of those folks at the forefront of digital marketing back 20 years ago. And Dan, thanks again for sticking with us.
Great to be here.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. One is kind of what the trends are now. What's the next big thing in the digital age? Where is all this going? But I also want to talk about your charity, Make Child Poverty History. So let's talk about the kind of the digital world. What's coming next? What can we expect to see in the next, say, 5 years that a small business person or an entrepreneur should be mindful of?
Well, thinking about the broader trends of digital, it's going to be everything from self-driving cars, which are coming at us more quickly than we can imagine. But the concept of owning a car will change. I mean, we won't need to own a car any more than we need to own chickens because we want eggs for breakfast. The cars will become a service in the future. The concept about wearable internet, we'll be wearing the internet around with us, not just the Apple Watch or the Google Glass, but the internet will be embedded into all elements of the things we wear, and it's moving with us everywhere we go. This concept of the Internet of Things, or IoT, as it's sometimes called, which means our coffee pots will be connected to the internet, and our fridge and our stoves. And you hear about these things kind of on a news flash on television or in the news here or there. But this stuff is all real, and it's coming at us very quickly. So thinking about how digital is going to change each company's industry is really important, because this represents new opportunities, but change can represent negatively impact companies that don't migrate towards that change. But the reality is, and this was said by Ray Kurzweil, the guy who heads up Google X Labs. He said the internet will change more in the next 5 years than the past 25 years combined. So people tend to think about it like the internet's here, but the reality is this is just the tip of the iceberg. That
is absolutely amazing. Well, these things creep up on you, and you don't realize how quickly they do. And it just I can recall back in the late 90s, let's say 15 years ago, I was working with a guy, entrepreneurial guy. He came to me. He said, "Mike, I got this great idea. I'd like to have a website where the restaurants are all on the website, and people can use my website to not only check out the restaurants, but to order takeout food from those restaurants or to make a reservation." I tried to raise a bunch of money for the guy. I talked to everybody under the sun. Nobody would put money into this deal. And yet today, that whole concept of I wouldn't order takeout if I didn't go. I mean, if I wanted a pizza, if I want Chinese food, I'm going to go online and order it. I wouldn't even think to phone a pizza place any longer. And then and now you can go to My Table and you can make reservations. You can go to Yelp and you can check out the reviews and see what other people are saying about the restaurants. So. We installed a new alarm system at the house. We changed companies, and the new company, the alarm system, it's all not only hooked into to my computer, but it's hooked into my phone. So that alarm goes off, or even never mind the alarm goes off. My wife goes home, turns off the alarm. My phone is telling me that the alarm has been turned off. So it's just amazing, and we're going to see more of those changes in the future. It's almost too much for the mind to comprehend.
Right. It's really the tip of the iceberg. I mean, just one change alone, like the self-driving car, will change the way we build houses. We won't need a garage in the same way anymore. It'll change the way we build cities. We're not going to need to live close to where we work anymore. It'll change the way we spend money. The second biggest thing we purchase in life sits in our driveway 22 hours a day. So one change like that is huge. I mean, think of the auto industry, the insurance industry. You're not going to be buying auto insurance other than fire and theft. Entire industry disrupted, and that's just one change. So yeah, there is a lot of disruption and change coming in the years ahead, and we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg.
So entrepreneurs out there, small business people listening to us, this is opportunity. Every one of these changes creates opportunity. And I'll just give you an example of that. We've been talking about electric cars, and yes, you have Honda and General Motors have their versions of electric cars. But the innovator in electric cars was a company called Tesla that was not even in the automotive industry, and I was doing some research on electric cars. Yeah, there's the big name Tesla, but you can find about 40 little small companies developing electric vehicles out there. So when change occurs, that spells for small business people and entrepreneurs opportunity. I mean, you got to stamp that right on your forehead. I was talking to Ron Klein, a very successful entrepreneur, a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things he said is it's not the right time and the right place. Your life is a series of right times and right places. You just have to learn to take advantage of some of those right times and right places.
Absolutely. And most of those big changes, you use Tesla as an example, most of the disruption comes from people that were outside the industry. Uber, these guys were not from the taxi industry. So thinking about, just because you don't know and you're not in an industry doesn't mean that your idea can't have a huge impact on it.
Well, Dan, look, I don't want to stop talking about this, but we do have some time constraints, and there's one more thing I want to talk about. You're a philanthropist, and I want to say something, to the audience. I know there's this kind of thing going on in the U.S. where people talk about these one percenters. I don't know if a Dan would qualify as a one percenter, but we talk about these people who have lots of money as if somehow that's a bad thing. But I know a lot of people with a lot of money, and every one of them, I think almost without question, I know is out there using his or her money to do good in the world. And what is wrong with that? I mean, you can only buy so many sports cars. You can only buy so many big fancy houses. You can only, stay in so many expensive hotels and resorts. What do you do with the rest of the money? People I know with a lot of money are doing just what Dan is doing. They're out there supporting charities, organizations trying to make the world better. And Dan, your effort to make the world better, you're founder of Make Child Poverty History. Tell us about this organization and what you do.
Well, it's our site is makechildpovertyhistory.org, and it's something we've developed in partnership with World Vision, where we have our offices around the world, our franchise offices, that are contributing and participating in this as well. But it's about sponsoring children and doing sustainable community development, bringing children, families, villages out of poverty. And there's so much more that we can do today to make a difference. And we just leverage the tools at our disposal, the internet, our global network. Shortly, probably just before the time you air this, myself, along with a bunch of others, will be climbing Mount Kilimanjaro to raise more money for these villages of kids that we sponsor, many villages around the world. So it's just our way of kind of moving from success to significance, and it's certainly a lot more enjoyable to make that kind of a difference. It's great when we're helping business owners transform their families through the economic impact of entrepreneurship in their business, where we can help them bring in new customers, et cetera. But it's also an amazing feeling to lift a family out of poverty through the kinds of contributions we can make through this program.
Oh, that's just wonderful. So give us the web address again, if you would, Dan.
It's makechildpovertyhistory.org. There'll be a link on that page that can connect you to our Mount Kilimanjaro climb, where you can follow us along or make a contribution as well. And that's going to go straight to the kids in one of our communities through World Vision.
Okay, so if you're making a little bit of money out there, spread it around. That's what you need to do. Make Child Poverty